How is everyone today? I am so excited that you are here. This is going to be just a really, really powerful moment. Okay. I have an author here. She's amazing. She's co-authored books and with several different authors, and she's very much into the holistic movement. It's very important to her. And her name is Laura Thompson. She's a New Yorker, but she happens to be in Miami right now. Laura, thank you so much for being here with us. I've been following you for a while now. I love your content. I love all that you share and all that you give to this world. And especially with, being an author and a writer, it's so incredible to see how much you actually give, which has to definitely you've gone through things in life to be able to get to where you are right now, because the wealth of information of what you give is who you are. And that's why I've always been so drawn to you, is because you literally speak and share what you actually live. And I love that. I love the Laura Thompson and all that she's doing. And I have to say too, one of the things that that you were talking about earlier, when we were first having our conversation, is rethinking, okay, and rethinking big. And we're going to go a little bit more into that, but I just want you all just to take a seat back, because I really do believe what you put out is what you attract. And if you're here today with us, I really want you just to just really receive of what's being shared. You're not alone in your journey. Thank you so much for being here with us. Now, this is our question. How did you get started in this whole movement of what you're involved in?
Well, first of all, thank you, Galen, for having me part of this journey with you. I'm very excited to share, some knowledge and experience.
I love it.
I think with the mindfulness movement and holistic movement, I probably got into it as a teenager because of my mother.
Oh.
And then I continued the journey on my own. And, I met one person while I was working in the corporate world, and he was so zen and calm through everything. And I asked him, I said, how do you do it? Because sometimes we're in crisis management. And he said, I study Buddhism and I meditate. And I said, that's what I want. I want what you have.
I love that. So you just felt his energy. You were just drawn to his, reminds me of Eckhart Tolle, right? Just that. Well, you carry it to just like that. I could just hang with you by the water fountain all day. That's incredible. So did he talk to you about how he got to this journey then?
Well, I was living in France at the time, and then he just said, find your own Buddhist community. And I ended up moving to Geneva, Switzerland.
Nice.
And through a mutual friend, I met this lovely Japanese woman who was into Buddhism. It was like her faith. And she brought me to a Buddhist temple. And then that's what launched my sort of, not, I guess my, I don't know what you would call it, but practicing Buddhism.
Right.
And I would go every week, and we would have meditations with the minister, and he would teach us how to meditate walking. And then he would bring in parables, and we would talk about the parables and what do they mean to us. And every single person, it had a different meaning. And then he would bring us together, like what the true meaning might be. And one famous one that a lot of people know is like when you're a little kid, right? You build sandcastles.
Yes.
And you love it. You just love the building part of it. But you know that a wave is going to come and wash it away after a while.
Yes.
And that's sort of what life is about in certain ways. We're building, but then we keep moving forward and we keep building new things. And that sort of perhaps would lead us into think big. Like, how can we keep thinking bigger?
I love that.
Like, whatever we're doing today, what can we do bigger and better?
Yes.
For tomorrow.
So when
And
you
as
were
an,
living in
yeah.
Switzerland, were you, because you had already met this person and he already showed you this path in life. When you were in Switzerland, did you just just going like through all the different countries, did you end up finding just other people to surround yourself with there, or was it kind of getting harder and harder, and that's why you felt like I need to co-collaborate and write a book and all of that? Or what was it when you were in Switzerland that brought you from France to Switzerland?
Well, career and
Okay.
family
Oh,
and
nice.
a partner
Oh, I
brought
love that.
brought me from France to Switzerland. And then eventually I went to New York. And what I found was I was in finance before, then went into communications
Okay.
and eventually into executive leadership and communications coaching. And what I kept finding is communications was the breakdown, whether
Mm.
it's personal or professional. And I combined my communications background with mindfulness.
Oh, I love that.
And that was the book I first wrote. It's more like a resource booklet, and it's how to communicate mindfully.
Yes.
And I took a lot again from Buddhism, and I love Thich Nhat Hanh, who recently passed away, but he was a very well-known Vietnamese Buddhist.
Mm.
And he even wrote about the art of communicating, and that inspired me really to write my
Beautiful.
book, Mindful Communication.
I love that because you were in the corporate world, and that can be very black and white. It's like the corporate world. So for you to be able to bring those two together, like the corporate world and the mindfulness, it's so powerful because it's like you're teaching people like there's not just one way. It's not like one way or the other way. Like if you are in that world, there is a way to have that mindful communication. What would you say is, like, in that book that you wrote, what would you say is one of the top elements in that book that you feel is really transformational for people to hear?
I think in terms of communication,
Mm.
it's being present with the other person. Like I hear sometimes when executives are at a meeting, people will be texting
Ooh,
and they're not present.
yeah,
And then the person talking feels a bit offended
right,
because they feel like they're not listening.
right.
And that's where presence comes in, mindfulness, respecting the
Mm.
other person
That's so good.
when they're talking. So I think respect is a very big element. Um, and just looking at politics in our own country, like the United States,
Yes,
where's the tolerance to listen to everyone's differences of opinion and
yes.
perspective? And how can we be tolerant of one another to reach successful solutions,
Mm.
like for the betterment of the people of our country, or it could be for the betterment of our team at a corporate
Yes.
company. So I would think respect, treating people with human dignity.
Mm.
We're all important.
Yeah.
And then listening to each other's differences of opinion and
Oh, that's good.
perspectives. And it can also go back to diversity, equity, and inclusion and justice. Uh, and then, recently I heard about invisible diversity.
Mm.
We might look at somebody and think they're a certain way, but underneath they're very different.
Oh, that's so good. I've never heard of that term, but that's right. That's so true. That's so true.
Yeah, because visible diversity is easy. You
Yeah.
can see like a person, maybe they come from Japan or Asia, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
But then inside, what's on the inside of them? How did
Yes.
they grow up? What religion do they practice or not practice?
Right.
Uh, Maybe what schools they went to, what political views they have. So
Hmm.
those are sort of all the invisible aspects of a person. And then a client of mine who is an entrepreneurial CEO. I don't know if you've ever heard of Simon Sinek, but
Okay, it's familiar. Yeah.
he was always about the why. And that's how he wrote like a remark about me. He said, Laura always like taps into the why
Oh, that's good.
rather than the what.
Oh,
And
that's so good.
yeah, and therefore getting more into like the deeper part of who we are.
Yeah.
And again, that goes back to respect and understanding and
Yes.
compassion too is a
Oh,
big part
that's
of it.
true. Yes, I totally agree with all that. And I really can resonate with what you're saying with presence, because if you're in the corporate world and you're trying to give a presentation or you're trying to receive a presentation, you're right, with people being on their phones and they're like, no, I can do two things at once and all this. It's like, well, the other person doesn't feel heard. And how can you really
Exactly.
listen, if you're, and you've said this over and over again, which I feel is really important to reiterate, especially in the holistic world, that it is respect. To really listen to someone is a form of respect. So if you're
Mm.
wanting that for your own self, it's so important to, being present is actually very respectful. Yeah, I mean, it's so true. It seems like such a simple tweak in our language, but it's so true. And I love that you make that like such a big part of what you're doing in mindfulness and communication and all of that. So, and then you had also mentioned the why. Okay, why is the why such a big part of your life? I mean, do you remember when there was a time when it was like, you just really centered on the why?
I think it's always been a part of me. It's just natural. I think I'm a very curious person.
Mhm. Yeah.
So always asking questions to know people, like more of the who they are.
Mm.
And the why part is probably just curiosity.
Yeah. Like, why are you doing what you're doing? No, I love that. I love that. So, and it sounds like too, like you just really love people. And so you always
Mhm.
want to know. And the more we know about someone, it, there's like that energetic part of it. But I think it's also really incredible, like that other term that you were saying. What, I should have written it down. I didn't write it down. What was that term that you said that, like when someone looks at you on the outside, that's one kind of reflection, but then they can be totally different. You know what I mean? Like on the inside. There was a term that
Yeah,
you,
well, the inside to me is the who of what you are,
okay.
right? Or the who you are.
Yes.
And then the what is the external, like
Okay, right.
what are we? It's like uh, someone can be uh a Latino, right?
Yeah.
And they have the characteristics. And for example, maybe they're from Mexico, so they're known to be of service and kind. It's like part of their culture.
Right.
But then on the inside, who are they really? And
Yes.
that's what makes everyone unique
Yeah.
and beautiful.
Right. And I love that you make us aware to tap into that, especially if we're part of a leadership team, which
Mhm.
most of our viewers on here are some type of leadership. And to really just not just look at the external, but if you're really wanting to make an impact, like everything in your book is so pertinent because of the fact that everything's mindfulness, and it's also communication, but it's also respect, and it's also looking deeper into that person, not just the shell of who they are, of what society looks at them at.
Mhm.
And so for you, what would you say your biggest why is, why you're an author, and why it's important for you to get this your message out, because we go global on these.
Mhm.
And what would you say your why is on why you do the work that you do?
I think it goes back to having better relationships
Mm,
personally and professionally.
yeah,
And how do we do it? It starts with communication.
yeah,
For I think for the most part, it does
Yeah.
start with communication and how we communicate with one another.
Mm-hmm.
And again, going back to respect.
Yeah.
And I mean, big picture wise, my dream would be, of course, to live in a more peaceful world. We're living in a crazy world at the moment,
Yes.
politically. But where does it start? It starts first with ourselves, going back to that holistic
Mm-hmm.
awareness.
Yeah.
And then it expands out to our family, our friends, the people we work with, and then, hopefully the world. But we first have to start with ourselves.
Yes. No, I think that's so good. I think that's so good. And I love your journey. I love that you were in that place of really ready to receive. And then you were introduced to Buddhism and then you really ran with it. It actually reminds me of as you can see, as much as I meditate, my natural nature is just a super like high energy. This is how God made me. You know what I mean? And I remember, so my girlfriends were like, "Oh, we're going on a meditation retreat." This was like this Buddhist meditation retreat, way up in the mountains. And they're like, "You should come with us." And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm all in," you know. And it was 4 nights in 5 days, right? And so we go up there, and I mean, I had already been practicing a lot of this, not quite as deep because this was probably like 10 years ago. And we get up there, and they failed to tell me it was a silent
Oh
meditation
no.
retreat in the mountains, you know what I mean? And there was like 35, other people there, and then all the speakers and the masters and all that. And it was lovely, but I'm telling you, like the first 2 days, I was like, okay, we should communicate. Can I raise my hand? Can we do what you guys have been doing for the last 100 years up here on the mountain, And but it was really powerful because it was like it's so much in alignment with what you're saying, because like it was the first time where I realized like communication can be body. I mean, it starts with body
Mm.
language, right?
Yeah,
And it starts
yeah,
like with
yeah.
your energy, and you can still sit around a dinner table and eat lovely
Mhm.
food and not have to chat away. You can still enjoy, smile, just be calm, just be, you know what I mean, energetically like in alignment.
Mhm.
And so it's like when you were sharing that, I was like, I was like, you guys, now everyone always has like jokes about it, you know what I mean? But it was so powerful to go through that experience, and to really even what you were talking about, like learning to meditate even while you're walking, or
Mhm.
just in your home. And I'm a mama and I've got 3 kids that live at home, and no one, not even my teenagers, they're still learning to do laundry for some reason. They could do it at 12 years old. Do you know what I'm saying? Once they hit
Yeah.
13, they totally forget. But no, love them to death. But anyway, so I've really taken on that practice too, like what you're talking about, like just walking, folding laundry, like not always feeling like I have to just like talk and da da da, but like making the energy more important, and the
Mhm.
calmness of what I'm giving out instead of just like my words.
Right,
And
yeah.
it's such a beautiful practice, like through
Mm.
uh Buddhism and mindfulness and all the things. So where do you see yourself going with this, like in the future? Like, are you wanting to do more books? Are you wanting to open more of a movement in this? Or where do you see yourself and those that you work with in this going?
Yeah, no, I'm actually working on a book proposal. It's sort of about like mindful leadership,
Yes.
incorporating communications and values, and then creating a movement.
Yes,
Absolutely.
I
So
love that.
once the book is published, it'll be through a traditional publisher, so it'll take about 18 months before it comes out. But yeah, I would love to create a movement.
That is
Um,
so good, because
yeah.
it's so needed in the
Mm,
entire world, like across the nations. It's so needed,
mm,
just the mindfulness of it. And being aware. And even if someone isn't into the practice of Buddhism, right? Or
Mhm.
they can really actually feel the transformation just by reading your book, and being part of that. Now, tell our audience how they can find you and the resources that you actually have to help.
Yeah, well, they can go to my website, which is
Okay,
laurathompson.world.
great. We'll
So,
have that underneath. Yes.
yeah, so LAWRA dot, no, it's Laura Thompson. Yeah, you can see
Yep.
my name on the
Laura
screen.
at laurathompson.world. Yes. So
Well,
I
that
love
would be
that.
the email,
Oh,
but
that's your email. Yes. Oh, your website.
the website is laurathompson.world. And then on my website, they can download a free chapter from the recent book I wrote. It was about a year ago that it came out, called Think Big, and that was with other co-authors.
Oh,
And
no.
it's about stories where, they might have hit bottom and how they rose up again.
I
So
love
very
that.
inspirational stories across industries. So that makes it exciting.
Yes.
And my story is more about compassionate leadership. I always tend to, I don't know, I like gravitate toward leadership
Yeah.
and communications. And then on the book page of my website, you'll see all the different books I've written.
Oh, nice.
So I've written 3 books and then co-authored 2 other books.
Oh,
And
fantastic.
yeah, the other book would have been The Future of Work in Asia. So I did that, collaborated with the Center for Asia Leadership,
I
which was
love that.
fun. And then my little mindful communications, I call it a booklet. It's more like a resource guide to
I
communicate
love that.
better. And that can be a gift that I'm giving to your audience.
That is wonderful. That is so generous. I know, because these are like tangible ways as a leader that you can just really go in and really make that impact on, those that you're working with and your other, your associates, and then also your employees. I just feel like it's so needed. Like, I feel like, because I've owned 4 restaurants across the country, so you can imagine, right? And if I had been more honed in and knew that there were resources like this out here. So that's why it's like, I love so much that you're writing these books on mindful communication, and really just getting them out there and just not stopping and co-authoring, because I have to say this. So I feel like ever since we went through this pandemic, right? A lot of people say they put a lot of like suppressed energy on all the employees out there. Like, they just don't work as hard, or they're just not out there. They don't show up, or they don't, do the work correct. There's just like a constant, you hear like a constant negativeness. And it's very interesting because I have so many friends and family that are 9 to 5ers. They work 9 to 5 jobs, totally fine. And but there's a lot of leaders and owners who are not respecting and uplifting and encouraging and inspiring and being gentle, or even just being nice or respectful to these employees nowadays. I feel like it's not even really talked about. Like, people aren't even talking about, like the owners and the upper leaders and the management. And so I just encourage you, because I know we have a lot of business owners on here. If that feels like something in your own spirit, like, I will own it and say I'm a type A personality. And there was, towards the end of one of my restaurants, I personally had to make a shift because everyone was calling me the warden. And like, you own something, you're an executive chef of your restaurant, but you don't, you still need to walk in love, and
Yes.
mindfulness and respect. And, you want people to enjoy coming to work. And not only that, but you want them not just to like survive throughout the workplace, but you want them to thrive. You want them to go home and feel like, they're skipping. Like, we all have off days and off moments, but to be mindful of your employees and what they're going through is just, I feel like it's very lost. It's very lost, like universally lost. And so I just appreciate you in your most gentle way ever, Laura, of really just like making the awareness, to us, where it's like we don't have to feel shameful about it. We can just own it and say, okay, we're going to make a shift. We're going to make a difference. We're going to respect and honor those who work for us, and we're going to go forward, and we're grateful that we have them, and we want to see them fly as well. So I absolutely love that. I absolutely love that. So, audience, thank you so much for being on here with us. Laura, I cannot thank you enough as well. You're just absolutely amazing. You're such a bright light, and the content that you're giving out is so amazing and generous, and I'm so grateful that you're not stopping. You keep going, you co-collaborate, we get this word, this word of everything you're doing out there. So just in closing, Laura, you shared so much about your journey and where you're at and where you're going, and also like with our audience, what is a takeaway? I know that you talked about like in your books and everything, and I just want to reiterate the respect and the communication and
Yeah.
just staying grounded. What would you say, like, for someone today to do, like one task that they can do today to really just center themselves, to really absorb what we just shared? Because I feel like for some people, there's a little bit of an aha moment right here for our leaders.
I would say just take a deep breath,
Yeah.
like inhale, hold it for 3 seconds, and then exhale.
Yes,
And
that's
it's
so
a
good.
way of calming ourselves, way of centering ourselves
Yeah.
and being at peace.
Yes. I love that. I love that. Thank you so much. And I'll leave all of this information on here for you all so that you can opt into Laura Thompson's website. And she has the downloadable of one of the chapters of her book. And then she also has a PDF that she's giving away, which we're really excited about. So amazing. Thank you again for being here with us, and your work and your heart and your non-stop energy to like make this happen, center us, and keep us mindful in all of our communications. Thank you so much, Laura. We appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you, Galen. I appreciate you too, and your audience. Take care.